Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK,
And I'm Courtney.
and it is officially our first Sci-Fi Sunday.
Woo, woo, woo.
And unfortunately, we're not recording in the same room anymore.
I know, I missed you already.
It's worse, the worst. This week has been horrible.
Yes, facts.
But the worst day of the week was Tuesday. I haven't even told you the story yet. You've heard lots of why my week was terrible.
Right.
So Tuesday is a rough day for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 classes, obviously, like the 4 grades of the middle schoolers, and my 7th graders are the toughest class. They're the biggest class. They've got a couple kids who are like less easy to deal with. I've got the most like special needs programming in that class. They're just my toughest class.
Mm-hmm.
And on Tuesdays, I see them directly before lunch and directly before I go home. So like all of my free time in the day is used recovering from teaching them.
Right.
So Tuesday's already a bad day to begin with. Then on Tuesday, I had a bunch of stuff go down at the very end of the day into my end of day homeroom. And I had to have a meeting with my principal just to fill her in on some of the stuff that happened. Like nothing really bad, but because I have a principal that actually cares about me and communicates with me, when things happen, I just immediately meet with her and fill her in on details so that like there's always a record of things being dealt with.
Right.
But my co-director of the musical was not going to be there on Tuesday. So rehearsal starts right after school. I can't go to rehearsal because I have to go have this meeting with the principal. So I just put all 50 of my little children on our 22-year-old choreographer and go, have fun. I'm leaving. So I'm already full of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Then rehearsal goes all right. Not good. I was not in a good mood. But it happens. And then I was like, but you know what? It's fine. I'm going to go to the basketball game. It's going to be great. It's Mardi Gras. I'm going to go get a drink after the basketball game. Everything's going to be fine. So Teresa and I go eat McDonald's because we just needed to die. And like, we're literally like, McDonald's is more joy than we have in our lives right now. So we go to McDonald's, we go to the basketball game. Sitting there at the basketball game, the kids are not playing their best game. Like they're trying, but like it is clearly not their best game. And like when they lose, but they tried really hard, I don't get angry. But it was not a good game. And all of a sudden, I look down at my phone and there's a text from Mo, my manager of the theater. And she's like, hey, are you on your way to work? I was like, am I where? I'm not. I can be. Is that a thing that's supposed to be happening? Checked the schedule. Turns out it was. It was a thing that was supposed to be happening. I was supposed to go to work.
Oh, good.
So I get to work an hour and 15 minutes late
Mm-hmm.
for the opening night of a tech-heavy show. That then, it's My Fair Lady. I don't know if you saw the Kennedy Center or Lincoln Center My Fair Lady with the spinning house.
I did not. No, I have not seen My Fair Lady.
Well, My Fair Lady is about a 3.5-hour show to begin with. It's just a very long show. And this particular set is the same set. It's the touring version of the set that they used at the Lincoln Center production.
Okay.
Which is a massive rotating house set piece. When they were setting it up in our theater, a piece broke of the rotating house, and our like head tech guys and everything like fixed it, and it was like great, but there was all this drama, so not everything for all of the like other hanging set pieces was like exactly perfect. So when it started to fall apart in the middle of the show, to badly enough that they had to pause the show for 15 minutes to fix it, all of which happened as I had finally felt like I could breathe and sat down on the toilet. And then, of course, because all of this happened, the show ended late. And then the production meeting with the company management discussing the nonsense that had happened went very, very late. So when I got to work on Wednesday, I was like, don't anyone look at me. Don't talk to me. And that was the beginning of the end of my week. Like,
it was all downhill from there. Just like the title of our 100th episode.
Which hopefully this podcast will not be. But
no, hopefully this is not all downhill from here. We are going up.
But yeah, so that's the energy that I'm coming into this with.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Well, I have complained a lot this week about a lot of things. So I'm going to choose to talk about some minor happy things, some silver linings, if you will.
Good.
Every 8 or 9 months, I get this new letter in the mail that says you can sign up for this magazine for the next 12 weeks for like $6. So I am now currently once again, subscriber to the New Yorker, which I love the New Yorker. It brings me so much joy, but I will not be paying hundreds of dollars because I read like 3 of the magazines that I get and then skim the others. So like, it's not worth it for me to pay for it. But when they're like, you haven't been a subscriber for like 8 or 9 months now, we're going to send you a new thing. I've done this like 4 times where I just subscribe for like 12 weeks for like $6. Those 12 weeks I have full access and it just brings me so much joy.
I love that for you.
I love the New Yorker. So I started in March. This is the only one I've gotten so far. And I've read like 3 of the stories because again, I read them very slowly.
Yeah, of course.
Also, another thing I got this week, neither of these things are ads. Let me start there. I'm not recommending anything. I am just telling you what has brought me joy. I got my first ever FabFitFun box because the other podcasts in the world have finally gotten me. And it was only because my friend Vanessa I work with at the bar, she was like, oh no, it's great. And I was like, I don't know. I did the starter box and it was really good. And I paid like $5 for it. So I was like, am I going to sign up for the full subscription? What am I going to do? It's dope. I got like this robe and slippers and I have this libel, which is what I'm wearing now. And a face mask that I'm going to use maybe tonight. I don't know. The night is young. It's not really, but who knows what I'll do tonight. What else did I get? I don't even know. I got some other things. There were some other things in there. And then because I was like, it's been a rough week and today is going to be good. I took a nap and then I ordered my sashimi bento box from across the street that I got while you were here. That's so good and had it for dinner.
Yay.
And it was still so good. So
good.
That's what I had right before we recorded. So I'm
happy.
bringing it up, starting this week on a new note.
Good. I don't have a transition. I was gonna try to find a transition.
Starting on another new note.
That's true. We are starting something new. That unfortunately will take the rest of our lives.
Forever.
Because the random Wheel of Joy chose for us for Sci-Fi Sundays Stargate SG-1. For those of you new to the Stargate universe, Stargate SG-1 is in fact the first of 5 series. It is 10 seasons long. All 10 seasons do have a normal 22 to 25 episode season, which roughly translates to 250 weeks or 5 years of this podcast. So I will never be talking about anything else again for the rest of my life. Thank you.
There is a possibility we will take like a mid-season break or have like a movie in between seasons. It may not just be SG-1 until we die, but
but it also might be.
Take a half a minute. It's gonna take a second. And
But-
this is where the friends who vaguely know things, MK knows a good bit about Stargate, and I know nothing. So if you put it together, we
Yeah.
vaguely know what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, and to be honest, I love Stargate, but I'm a Stargate Atlantis stan. I know everything there is to know about the characters in Atlantis, and because of that, I know a lot about the Stargate universe. Not the show Stargate Universe. I've never seen that, but the
show,
the multiverse that is Stargate. But I have watched most of SG-1, but because of when it came out and when it started, I never watched it really in a full, like, intelligent order. I would just watch episodes here and there, and like my parents watched it, so I knew who people were.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of this, like, I've never seen this episode before, like the first thing, at least not in its entire format, because the first episode is not an episode, it is a movie.
It is indeed.
And it was originally released as a movie, but then in syndication it is broken down into 2 episodes, so I didn't even realize that this was a thing that was going to happen. But so season 1
that'll save us 1 week, so now it's 249 weeks instead of 250.
Right. Stargate SG-1 season 1 episode 1, Children of the Gods. It was rated 8.1 stars, which is a pretty high note to start on. I don't entirely disagree, but I also don't necessarily agree. Just because
I don't disagree. I'm going to interrupt you a lot.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Be prepared. I don't disagree, but I wonder how it got so high coming off of the movie, because this is the second thing that happened after the movie, right? Like it was the movie and then this, and that's it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how so many people were so committed so quickly.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Fair point. I do think that the cast plays a bit of a role in that.
I think that's
and
fair.
I do think that once you start the show and you get into it and you realize how much of the universe is set up in this that is, because really a lot of the format of the show is set up in this, not the original movie.
Right.
So I think that it actually does a really good job of giving you a good bit of what you're going to need to understand to watch the show.
I thought this was a really well done episode. I'm just surprised that it took off like it did from the beginning.
That's true. It came out on July 27th, 1997. So I was 5, which does play a bit into why I don't remember it as much as other things. The number 1 song of the day or the week or whatever was I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and Faith Evans featuring 112. R.I.P. Biggie. And the number 1, such a good song. The number 1 movie of the week was Air Force One, starring Harrison Ford, which is the best debut weekend for a rated R movie since Independence Day.
I haven't seen it. I have heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Some fun facts about events that happened on that day. There was only really 2 that I found interesting, and they both happened to be theater closings. Candide closed at the Gershwin after 103 performances, which is not a very long
And
run.
then Wicked immediately opened after?
Wicked did not open until 2003, so this is 6 years before that.
Gotcha. I didn't know which year. I was like, it's about that time.
No, this is about 6 years between Candide and Wicked. And then Victoria closed at the Marquee Theater after 738 performances. Unfortunately, neither of them broke 1,000. But
what's the Marquee right now? Is anything open at the Marquee right now?
Is anything at the Marquee right now? I honestly feel like I had this conversation literally this week.
I've been trying to remember what's at what theaters, and like they're still not all the way open yet, obviously, in New York. Like, I mean, the ones that are open, but all the shows aren't filled. And so
you know what? I did have this conversation literally this week, because you know what will be opening at the Marquee Theater? in a month. Beetlejuice.
I did pass a poster yesterday that said that, and I forgot.
I literally, my best friend and I were talking about what theaters things were at, or like because we were talking about how My Fair Lady shouldn't be touring and how it should have just stayed in New York when it closed at Lincoln and it could have gone to the Marquee. And I was like, what's playing at the Marquee? And he was like, I think Beetlejuice is opening, but at the time Tootsie was closing. And I go, okay, well, Tootsie's garbage, but I'm glad Beetlejuice is coming back.
I like
Tootsie,
but okay. Caitlin also likes it.
I genuinely think that my problem is that I saw the tour and not the Broadway production, because it was straight garbage.
That's fair. But I also went in with lower expectations, because we also were seeing Waitress for the first, Caitlin was seeing Waitress for the first time that weekend, and it's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And Jordan Sparks was playing Jenna. So I was real stoked, and we were going to see that, and we just happened to get lottery tickets to Tootsie. And she was like, should I buy these? I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. I was like, I guess we'll do it and see what happens. So both of us kind of went in with the mindset of this is going to be an okay show because we're going to see Waitress. And
there was some music in it. There was some music in it that I didn't totally hate, but I don't love the book. And I also hated the production that I saw. So
see, I've never read the book or seen the movie either.
No, I mean the book of the musical, not the book. Sorry.
I also haven't seen the book of the musical. So
but so those are the fun facts about that day. This episode blurb says Colonel Jack O'Neill is brought out of retirement to lead a new expedition back to Abydos, only to find an old friend, a new enemy, and a far wider use of the Stargate.
That's a nice blurb. It's doesn't give everything away.
No,
it's correct.
Very succinct.
Much better than the Dead Like Me blurbs.
Correct. And that was actually the one from IMDb, not even the one from Netflix.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah, they're stepping up.
Directed by Mario Azzopardi. He has some good sci-fi stuff. He does 6 episodes of this show. He did 4 episodes of Stargate Atlantis, 21 episodes of The Outer Limits, 5 episodes of Total Recall 2070, 5 episodes of a little known show that I forgot existed until I read it in his IMDb, and then I freaked out because I used to love it, called Dinotopia.
I'm sorry, I haven't seen any of these things you've mentioned except this episode. So
they're all pretty decent sci-fi shows. Yeah. And
I like Dinosaur, so I'd probably like Dinotopia.
It was good. It was good. And he was born in Malta. And fun fact that connects him to this podcast, his daughter, Kyra, played a character on a little show called Degrassi. And her character's name was Trish. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. It's even better than a last week connection. Trish, the character on Degrassi, had a boyfriend named Declan Coyne. Do you remember who played Declan Coyne?
No, but I remember him existing.
Landon Lieberon.
Oh!
Yes. So the director of this episode's daughter played Peter's girlfriend on Degrassi.
I love it. Is this show shot in Canada?
Stargate, yes.
Show we've covered?
Yes.
Okay. Kolchak. It was actually shot in the States, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, no, Kolchak was actually shot in the States. But Hemlock was shot in Canada.
Dead Like Me was shot in Canada.
Oh, yeah. This one is also shot in Canada. But this show is also, it was a co-production from the CBC and Showtime. So
we were really into Showtime too.
Only at the beginning was it part of Showtime. It was not part of Showtime for most of the run of the show.
It doesn't feel like a Showtime show.
It doesn't feel like a Showtime show, but there are things in this episode that I remembered while watching the episode. I go, oh, right, this movie was not on network TV. Yeah.
Fair.
It was written by Brad Wright and Jonathan Glasser. Brad wrote for the Poltergeist TV show, Outer Limits, but mostly he's the head writer and producer for all of the Stargate stuff. He's a big Stargate guy. And Jonathan also wrote for a lot of Stargate universe, but he also wrote some stuff for Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Freddy's Nightmares, The Outer Limits, and CSI Miami, which was a weird one, but cool.
I love it. I like
Yeah.
CSI Miami.
The main cast of the show, there are five important cast that will be with us for quite some time. Richard Dean Anderson plays Colonel Jack O'Neill, and I don't really need to give him a bio because he's fucking MacGyver, but fun facts about him: he wanted to be a hockey player until he broke both of his arms. So then he decided to go hitchhiking, and was hitchhiking alone for 35 days in order to have a better headspace and want to become an actor. He got a job in LA working at Marineland, holding fish for whales to jump at. And then he finally got a break on daytime TV in General Hospital. And I just find his story to be ridiculous.
Wild. That is wild. I had no idea, which I have heard of him, but I don't know him that well because I've never seen Stargate or MacGyver.
Right. And really, he's done other things, but
what other time does he have?
Right. But a lot of his roles, like his most recent role was playing himself in Don't Trust the Bean from Apartment 23. Like,
I saw that.
he does a lot of things where he just plays himself because he's famous enough.
Just like, what's his face? The
James
other guy
Vanderbeek.
who played
James Vanderbeek. Yep.
Yes.
Michael Shanks plays Dr. Daniel Jackson. And outside of Stargate, he has played Hawkman on Smallville. Again, Stargate kind of took over most of these people's lives, so they don't have a ton of credits because, like, when you're on the #1 American sci-fi TV show for 10 years, you don't really need to be doing anything else.
But we also have another connection there because Callum Blue was on Smallville.
Correct. And connection to our social media, his wife, like his real life wife, plays Bree Tanner in the new Chucky TV show. Which Monica told me to tell you, yes, you should watch it.
I need to watch the originals first.
I don't care to watch any of it. Amanda Tapping. I adore her. But again, because of this show came out when I was 5, I don't know her from anything else other than from being in the show. Like, I would see her on TV and just be like, oh my gosh, it's Amanda Tapping. Like, we had a weird thing in my house. Like, we have a couple actors that even if you don't know anything about
we have
them,
a couple of weird things in my house.
well, we have lots of weird things in my house, but like, there's a couple things where like we have weird family inside jokes surrounding certain people, and like I could not even explain to you the origin of them, but like one of them is the phrase "you smell like Liam Neeson." I wish I could explain any of that to you. I can't. And then the other one is just Amanda Tapping's name. But it happened so long ago.
Last name? Tapping, like tap, tap, tap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it happened so long ago that I don't have, like, the core memory is just the word and not the situation. So every time I say her name, something weird happens in my brain and I don't actually know what it is. But she was on Flash Forward. She's on some episodes of Supernatural. She was a lead in the show Sanctuary, which happened after this. She works for UNICEF, and she runs an all-female comedy troupe.
Oh, fun! Did you see what kind of comedy they do? Do they do like sketch? Do they do?
I do believe it's sketch, not improv. But
okay.
Yes. Yeah. And
you
then
know where it's located? Is it in Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then we have Christopher Judge, who plays Teal'c. Mostly he does voice work because look at him and listen to that voice. Of course he does. He is half African and half Cherokee. He's a beautiful man. And I know it literally just says he does voice work because of course he does. But he and Michael Shanks, who played Daniel Jackson, are actually real life best friends. And
Oh,
Daniel Jackson got an audition for the show because of his resemblance to James Spader.
mhm.
And then Christopher Judge was at Michael Shank's apartment and saw the script and was like, that looks interesting, and auditioned and got it as well.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And then Don S. Davis plays General Hammond. He was the most prolific of the actors in the show prior to being in the show. He was on Twin Peaks. He was the General Briggs in Twin Peaks. He was the baseball captain in A League of Their Own. He was the only cast member on the show to have any real military service. He was on
Oh,
literally just about every show. And unfortunately, he did pass away in 2008. But the interesting thing about him passing away is that when he died, they remastered this movie and took out some of the inappropriate nakedness and recut some of the more intense scenes that he was in. And there is a version of it called Children of the Gods Final Cut 2009, and was a direct to DVD movie just in honor of his passing.
oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then we do have one guest star in this episode. Not really a guest star because it's Kowalski. But that is Jay Akovino, and he just did a lot of one-off stuffs, but he was the cop in the 1987 Beauty and the Beast series.
I didn't know that existed for a very long time. And I never saw it.
Yeah. So that's our cast. Yeah, but so Sam Carter, Daniel Jackson, Jack O'Neill, Teal'c, and General Hammond are our main crew.
I like it. They're a good crew.
Teal'c, Christopher Judge, spoiler alert, is the cast member in the most episodes of the show. He will be in 213 episodes total. But Amanda Tapping is in the most episodes of Stargate ever because she's also a main and recurring character in 4 of the 5 Stargate universe shows. Correct.
Whew,
Yes.
that is a lot of time devoted to Stargate.
Me too. Only I didn't get paid for it.
Right. Well, maybe soon you will.
So we start the show off with a poker game, watching the Stargate that is tarped up and inactive. We don't have a very clear idea of how long after the movie this is. And it's also said differently in multiple parts of the movie. They say that the report has been finalized for over a year, but then they also say things that make it seem like it's been like at least 5.
I think the majority of the things said were more consistent that it's been a year.
That's what I thought, but then there was a couple random things that I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think that was just
but so it's about a year and a half-ish, a year after the movie. And the Stargate starts activating again. Dun dun dun. And I wrote, why is the girl the only one stupid enough to try to touch it?
because this movie show was shot in the late 90s.
But to be fair, there's a lot of hardcore feminist stuff happening in this, and I am here for it. This scene was not one of them.
This was not one of them. I do want to talk about the style of this show, how it looks.
I don't like the frame. I don't know why on Netflix it's in 3x9 instead of, or in 3x4 instead of 16x9. I don't know why.
So I also don't care for that particularly, but I don't have as strong feelings about that. Mine comes more to like the way the show looks while you watch it, like the feel of the show, I guess.
Okay.
So I just went through this Marvel rewatch that I didn't finish rewatching because I just start something and don't finish it. And I got up to Mutant X, which was a show that came out in the early 2000s. And this was in the late 90s, and they looked almost identically shot. Like the way, the style of the show, the like different like lighting that was used, the different
I mean, it's
metal.
very, very much like 90s, early 2000s military sci-fi. Like it's not doing anything different.
No, and it's like, and I think the thing is that every show that was considered sci-fi or fantasy that had this theme all looked the same, like during that time period for the most part.
And I will say that as the show goes on and as the other spin-offs happen and there's more modern technology and there are more worlds to explore, it's not as cliche. But
I'm sure more money towards the show and more different, because I think one of the things that, this may be completely inaccurate, but one of the reasons I feel like that happens is that sci-fi, while sci-fi has such a following,
it never has a budget.
It never has a budget. It never gets the like recognition as like other shows. You're going to see comedies can be more differential, even though a lot of them are very similar stories, because that's what sells the box office. Comedies, rom-coms.
No, you're absolutely right. Sci-fi has been under budgeted forever. Like even to this day, like you'll occasionally have things like, for example, Fringe, the show, which is one of my absolute favorite shows. It should have been canceled basically every season, but Fox was so good. No, it didn't have the ratings.
No, I got you.
It's so good. Story wise, it shouldn't have been, but ratings wise, if I worked for that TV office, I would have canceled it. But Fox was so afraid of repeating the failure on their end of canceling Firefly and what happened with the fans and Serenity, that they kept Fringe going because they were like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
But that was like late 2000s that they finally were like, let's not
everyone who likes sci-fi.
Right. It wasn't until Doctor Who came back into America that sci-fi started getting a budget again.
Yeah.
So yes, agreed with all of that. But despite no budget, consistency is key, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And the things that could have been ruined from the movie to now that weren't, so thrilled about it. Because obviously it's a whole new cast.
Right.
It's a whole new, a lot of things. They could have just basically rebooted everything, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Because when those snake men walked out of the Stargate, I was like, thank you.
I just put, oh no, snake guys.
Thank you. I was like, oh, I love the costumes because they're the same as the dogs from the movie, only now they're snakes. Yep. It was fantastic. It was perfect. So the snake men come out, they're getting attacked, and we see the first moment of Teal'c not being a bad guy. It was already in the first scene. Because as the soldiers are shooting, he uses his own body to guard the girl that they're kidnapping. Like, you don't have to protect the hostages. I mean, I guess kind of technically he does because of what she was a hostage for.
Right.
But it's very deliberately shown that he is protecting her.
Right.
And then the other snake men kill absolutely everyone.
Because why not?
Why not?
What
Everybody's dead. General Hammond finally makes it to the Stargate room and looks around at the carnage and says, oh, fuck. Only he didn't actually say that. In his mind, he did.
Right.
And then we once again return to Colonel O'Neill's house to pull him out of retirement again. And he's on his roof looking through a telescope, and he's like, you should leave the military and join NASA because out there, that's where everything's happening. And I was like, have you been drinking, sir? Like you go to space one time on accident and then whew. But they bring him back out of retirement because they mentioned that it's about the Stargate. And
right.
he goes
and I will say, you mentioned the characters was one of the reasons everyone like looped into this. And I 100% agree. Like just the first few minutes we got with this guy, I already liked him better than I liked Kurt Russell playing this role.
Absolutely. So Richard Dean Anderson is so much better than Kurt Russell, but I will say that they did a really, really good job of not making it super obvious that these are totally different characters.
No.
Like Michael Shanks and Richard Dean Anderson both did such a good job of like inhabiting all of the things we already liked about the characters without, so like
the storyline didn't feel different. Their personality didn't feel different. It was the way they were played.
Which is why I know that we could have had the same thing happen with Daisy, but we didn't.
Exactly.
So he gets there and he's trying to be real funny because like of course he is. And General Hammond is like, you should write a book. He goes, yeah, but then I'd have to kill everybody who ever read it.
Right.
It's like because everything I do is classified. Okay, whatever. Like clearly you don't have a sense of humor. What do you need?
Yeah.
And so then Captain Jack explains, or Colonel Jack, sorry, Colonel O'Neill explains everything that happened in Abydos to General Hammond, and we get a much clearer explanation of everything that happened in the movie than we did for the entire movie.
Yes.
Basically,
and that was the moment that I knew, I was like, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't understand the movie.
Yes.
This was the moment I was like, oh, I'm going to understand this show and it's going to be fine.
Yes.
Everything's going to work out.
Right. Because everything that I said in our podcast episode about the movie, Colonel O'Neill just said.
Right. Exactly.
So then that's when we find out it's only been about a year. And Colonel Hammond is trying to accuse Jack of having killed Daniel. And his only response is, Daniel, he was a scientist. He sneezed a lot. And I was like, he did sneeze a lot. Like that, for real, that was a thing.
Yeah.
And then they're just talking about the whole situation in the briefing and everything. And we get the very obvious Jack lied about the briefing, which we knew because we saw the nuclear detonation.
Mm-hmm.
But also he lied.
Right.
We find out that something has happened on Abydos and the gate is open again.
Yes. All right. Is he a colonel or a captain?
Colonel. Jack is a colonel.
I
just in my brain, I just keep saying Captain Jack because of Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who / Torchwood.
I only say Captain Jack.
No,
because of Captain Jack Harkness.
Yes. Between Captain Jack Sparrow and Captain Jack Harkness, my brain just says Captain with Jack, but he's fully a colonel.
Gotcha. I will change my brain. Got it. I'm in.
Mostly I just say Jack because they're my familiars at this point.
Yes, fair.
But for most of you, it's been an episode. So we found out that Hammond is like super no nonsense. And he is like really tough. I like him a lot.
Yes.
And we find out he's interrogating Kowalski and Ferretti to find out their versions of the story. But joke's on you. They ain't stitches.
You're right.
I was like, Kowalski and Ferretti got loyalty points.
Of course they do. We knew that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have a scene where Jack is talking to Kowalski and like they're catching up. But really it's just Jack telling us everything we already know in case you didn't watch the movie first.
Yes. Or if you watched the movie and didn't understand anything,
Correct.
now that they've filled you in on what happened in the movie, they can go back and tell you what actually happened in the movie.
Correct. That did happen. And they're like, well, we're gonna blow up the Stargate in Abydos like we were supposed to. And Jack's like, no, the fuck he was not. He's like, I'm taking a team over there. And they were like, no. And he was like, yes, there are people that are alive. They're like, how do you know? And he's like, I'll tell you. So he throws a Kleenex box into the Stargate.
Which made me very happy.
It did. I wrote, he's a secret sap who cares about Daniel.
Very much so.
Then my next note just says the Stargate FX are sexy.
They're fun.
No, not the actual traveling effects, but the
waving,
the actual like funnel when things go in and out of the Stargate. I just think that it's so sexy because I think it's so much more advanced than a lot of the things that they do. And the reason I think that it's advanced is because then in the show 10 years later and then shows that follow it, like the spinoffs, they still use the exact same effects and it doesn't look out of place.
Yeah, it makes me think of when they go through to travel, it makes me think of a mix between Floo Powder and traveling in the TARDIS.
I like it. But yeah, that little like cloud whoop thing. Ugh,
I do.
10 out of 10.
Yes.
But then we get to see just how funny Jack is going to be for the show because this one stick in the mud piece of shit military guy is like, what if the aliens get the tissue box? And Jack goes, they could be blowing their noses right now.
Right. Like, what else is gonna happen? Like, they
didn't send a
That's
bomb.
The worst.
Right. They didn't send a bomb. They sent a tissue box.
Right. Literally the worst thing that'll happen is they wouldn't send it back.
Right. So then the Stargate opens again and it's just an empty tissue box with a note from Daniel saying he needs more.
Yes.
Beautiful. And then we get a moment where General Hammond says, Colonel O'Neill, you are officially being recalled to active duty. And I'm quite positive that is like the first commercial break, or is that because the theme song played before they went to his house. But like this is like the big start of the show moment. I don't know where it splits in half. Not there, obviously, because that's too short. Right. But like that feels like a good splitting point. So I think it had to have been a commercial break.
Probably. I have no idea. There's no way to know.
But so they're having a briefing about their mission at 0800 hours. There's going to be a lot of briefings at military time in this briefing room because they're a military organization. And we meet the next member of the team, Captain Samantha Carter, who is a kick-ass babe. And I love her.
Big fan. Great addition to the team.
Fantastic. And I just wrote that she's a kick-ass babe because I love her. But then my first fuck yes, Sam, comes in the next few minutes when they're grilling her on like her military duty and everything. And she is like, I am a theoretical astrophysicist and I flew over 100 hours during the Gulf War. And just because my reproductive ovaries are on the inside of my body instead of the outside. And I was like,
you tell him, Captain. I love her.
But then I wrote that Jack is actually exactly what colonels should be because like he kind of gives her a little bit of sass, but then once he sees that like she does have her shit together, he still isn't going to like her, but he's fully going to approve of her being on his team because that's the person he needs on his team. He's just not going to do it politely.
Right.
But then also like the general and the other guy are trying to like tell him what they're going to do. And he's like, no. There
I
are
did like when she made that comment about the reproductive organs, and he just said, "This has nothing to do with you being a woman. It's because you're a scientist."
yes,
It's like,
yes, because
I was like, yes,
he's like, I'm not a misogynist. I just don't like science.
right. That made me laugh. I'm hoping for more comedic quips like that. I know it's not like a comedy per se,
No,
but I like.
it's a very funny show. Here's the thing. The dialogue is very funny. The characters like interplay is going to be funnier. It's just so much premise to set up
Right.
that you don't get enough of it to begin with.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah. But Jack refuses to let them blow anything up because they're going to go save Daniel. So they're going on their first like recon mission, and they're going into the Stargate, and everybody's doing their thing. And Sam says, "You really will like me once you get to know me."
You know, I was like, "You're adorable," and also the smartest woman alive. It sounds like.
I ship them so hard, it's not even funny.
I could tell that is a thing that would happen from people. I haven't seen enough of it, obviously, to feel that way particularly. But I was like, that's the couple everyone wants to get together.
Yeah, and I will not say anything that could potentially be spoilery, but from just that line, I'm just like, no, I love this, because he doesn't like her because she's a scientist, but she's like, no, but you will like me. And I'm like, yes,
Right.
you will. Oh. And then reasons why I know that he likes her, he just pushes her into the Stargate.
Yeah.
Then they get in and we see Daniel.
And I just put, wow, this guy encapsulates Daniel Jackson so well. Like,
and for me,
so
having seen the show for as long as I have before ever actually watching the movie, James Spader was so hard to watch because Michael Shanks is Daniel Jackson. Like, that's not.
And James Spader was just such an awkward actor in this role. And I get this.
I mean, I get it. The character is awkward too.
Yeah, but it felt like he felt awkward being awkward, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so like it didn't work. Whereas this guy, it just feels like who he is.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I love it.
And then in the moment that actually made me tear up a little bit, Jack just ignores Daniel and goes right for Skara.
That was so cute.
Well, because Kowalski had even been talking earlier about, like, remember that kid who always saluted you?
Yeah. He said it was just like my kid. Like, oh,
tears, sobbing.
I know.
And then we get the premise of the entire Stargate show. They didn't come from here because there are more than 2 gates.
I'm sorry that did not hit me as hard as it should have, because I have only seen 1 episode, and so I didn't know that was such a big deal. There was more than 1 gate.
Well, here's the thing. It kind of, the show doesn't work if there's just the 2.
Right.
Like, a movie works, even a couple movies works, but if there's only 2 gates, there's no show. There's nothing for them to continue exploring.
So I just assumed there were more places.
Right. Because you know that it's 10 seasons of a show. But like in 1997, that line would have been like
fair. Yes.
So then they go to dinner and we find out that Daniel's just like thriving there. He taught the kids how to make moonshine. I just forgot how much I loved Skara. He's the cutest. And Daniel still doesn't know how he landed Sharae. Like, that just doesn't even make sense to him. He's still baffled by it. Who also, her name is different than in the movie. In the movie, her name was Shaori. But fun fact, Michael Shanks couldn't pronounce it correctly. So they changed it because he
That's
says her name the most of everyone.
Right.
So you can't say it right. Not going there.
God bless him.
And then Daniel takes them to this crazy map inside one of the pyramids that is just like coordinates for all of these different planets. And it turns out that this is just like a massive map to all of the Stargates.
See, and I thought that was so neat. And it made me think about the scene in the movie when they came and you saw the Eye of Ra and all this stuff. And I was like, that scene should have felt like this, and it did.
Right.
And I loved how the scene felt and how neat it was. And like, that's where I felt the moment of like, this is the show. This is like where we're going.
And then we have this really awesome moment where Sam and Daniel are like geeking out about how to use astrophysics and the expanding universe theory to figure out where the Stargates are now, because they're not where they were, but like that doesn't mean we can't find them. And Kowalski's face is exactly what every viewer's face is, of like, okay, great.
He calls her Captain Doctor, and I thought that was great. I was like, I love that.
Yes. Well, because she is a theoretical
Is both a captain and
she is
doctor.
a doctor, but she doesn't want the military men to call her. And here's the thing: she doesn't want the military men to call her doctor because she wants them to respect that she is a captain. But she doesn't care that Daniel calls her doctor because Daniel's not in the military. He would respect her mind more than he would respect her rank. So she's like, no, to him, I can be a doctor. Like, that's fine.
But he calls her both. He's just like Captain Doctor. And I'm like, that's a great name for her, for someone that, you know.
But then as they are discussing the gates being opened, I don't know what exactly the dialogue says, because my note just says, well, that does in fact open us up to a bigger problem. I don't know what they said opened us up to a bigger problem, but something did.
I also don't know, but I did have a question here based on what was said. So probably similar.
All right.
Do we get a backstory more than this about how the different Stargates came about initially, like who built them or how they were created to connect these worlds to the alien planets, or do we just accept that they were created at the beginning of time with everything else?
We will find out more.
Okay.
Yes. We'll find it out in bits and pieces as they do.
That's fine. I just wanted to know if I needed to just accept it or if I was going to learn more.
No, you will learn more.
Cool. Perfect.
So the Abydos gate is activating, and the raw creatures that are not actually raw creatures, but the snake raw creatures return and kill everyone except for the people that they kidnap. But of course, because this is a TV show and you can't kill the characters who we know their names, Skara and Shayra are the two that are kidnapped.
So the guy who plays the fake Ra that looks like Ra, but he's not, he's the snake guy. Is that not the same guy who played Ra in the film?
No.
Very similar.
They do, but it is not the same.
And then they talked about, this is somewhere where I may need a refresher. They talked about how Ra died, but the way they're talking about him now, it sounded like Ra and Abydos, is that it? Abydos were allies. So could you just remind me what happened to Ra in the film?
Ra was Ra was ruling Abydos.
Right.
And then he was in that giant pyramid and he was used, and then the pyramid went up and they blew him up.
Right.
Yes. No, Apophis is played by a man named Peter Williams, who is a Jamaican actor. Who I recognize none of his other credits.
Okay. Well, he just looked very maybe I don't know if I just decided he looked very similar or if he actually does.
Hold on. No, I need to look this up because that looks familiar. Hold on a second. Yeah, no, you know why he looks familiar? Just kidding. Because we're fucking idiots. That's Angelo. The hot painter.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Because everyone who was in Dead Like Me was also in SG-1.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yes. Angelo,
Love that.
the hot painter.
I think I said that fact. I think I'm the one who said he was a
You
Apophis.
did say he
I
was
recall
Apophis, but because I didn't look at it, like I just listened to you, it wasn't in my like
Right.
brain pieces. But yes, and that hair made him, so like I didn't recognize him without the hair.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I feel better.
But then I was like looking at his IMDb and I saw a picture of him with hair, and I go, hold on, no, wait.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, and then as the Raw people are leaving, as Apophis and his clan are leaving, we see that there's one soldier on the ground who's going to get a gold star for watching the gate input. I did not realize in that moment that it was Freddy, but it was. He is the gold star man. That's what I wrote. My next note says Freddy is the gold star man. But he needs desperate medical attention, so they need to get him back to the military base. So they need to go back to the Stargate, and they need Daniel to come with them. / Daniel needs to go with them because Shara and Skara are missing.
Right.
And it was so sad to watch him say goodbye to like his new family. I hated it.
I know, but he was saying he would never see them again, but then he said leave it open for a year.
No, he said bury it, open it again in a year. And if I don't come back on that day, bury it again forever. If I do come back on that day, we'll have a conversation then. But like for your safety, bury it for a year. And in 1 year, we'll talk about this again.
I hope he comes back in a year to talk to them.
So then we go back to the military base and we find out that Hammond doesn't really like Daniel Jackson very much.
Nope, he sure doesn't.
Oh, and then we just have a quick scene of Apophis and his kidnappee people, and it was just like it happened, and then we move on. So I just wrote it to make sure that I talked about it, but it doesn't matter. Right. Then we go to Kowalski staying at Ferretti's side. He's gonna live, so we're gonna be able to get information. But
they're so sweet.
They're the best. Then Daniel's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Jack's like, I got you. So he takes him home, and he's helping him adjust to being home. And they have some really cute conversations. Turns out Daniel is a super lightweight, and he is crying after one beer. And we find out that Jack's wife did, in fact, leave him while he was on Abydos the first time.
And see, that was another thing that I didn't remember at all from the movie. I thought that they were already separated before he went to Abydos.
No, because remember, his wife is the one who opened the door at the beginning in the house, and then he goes to the bed. They go to the bedroom.
You're right. You're right.
So, but his wife left while he was in Abydos, and he said that it's because she forgave him, but she couldn't forget. But he was the opposite. He'd never forgive himself, but sometimes he could forget. And I was like,
oh, that's so sad.
Then we go back to Apophis's camp, where Teal'c is choosing a woman from the weird harem room full of women.
So this is a moment where some choices were made in production that I don't fully understand. The way they did their language, like when they spoke, you could tell that they had an accent when they were speaking like English or whatever, but then when they went to speak in a foreign language, it was always distorted. And I was like, why?
No, the Jaffa had a distorted language, the distorted voice. It was only Teal'c's people. It wasn't like all of the people, and that
but like they would be talking like in a normal voice that was clearly accented, but then they'd go to say something in their language, and it was like they distorted.
No, when Apophis spoke in English, his voice was distorted too.
Was it? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it was. Okay. No, there are some weird production choices on that. And like I have a note about some weird production choices with language, but no, the Jaffa's language being distorted is something that does happen again. So I don't know.
Okay. I don't care for it.
Okay. Well,
I don't know why they can't just sound the same all the time. Like, I mean, obviously they have different languages and they have different voices, but like, it just feels weird that they're like, they have that much distortion on the sound of their voice. Like, I don't know. Felt
Is
like
it weird that I didn't notice it? Like, I mean, I knew that it was happening, but like it didn't bother me because sci-fi languages are weird and I just accept that.
I guess that's acceptable.
And then we go to the throne room and we see the Goa'uld for the first time. And God, they're fucking nasty looking.
I put in all caps, what just came out of her stomach? I have so many notes that are the same exact note for the rest of the show.
Welcome to Stargate. That is the Goa'uld. They exist. Yep.
I don't care for them. They make me very uncomfortable.
Well, you'll see a lot of them for the next 5 years. So
excellent. I will be uncomfortable for the next 5 years. Good to know.
The lady gets rejected. And we see the lady getting rejected kind of get to Teal'c. Like he's like not super
he knows what
thrilled about
next.
that. Yeah.
So this is another question I have about how things work. So fake Apophis has his Iron Man hand. That is what I've started referring to it at.
Yes.
Because I don't know what it is. What exactly does it do? Does it drain the life from them, or does it like shoot a laser into them to kill them? What is the actual effect happening? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
Because it's not always consistent. Because sometimes
it's not always
like
death.
Yeah. No, it's not always death. It's usually not death. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like like when the one that happens at the end, it's like a knocks them out kind of thing. But sometimes it's more of like a hypnosis sleep kind of thing. Like I'm not 100% sure. And I also don't remember if that's ever really talked about.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. You know where I'm going to ask that? On the Stargate Reddit.
Perfect. So then we go back to team meeting time, team briefing in the war room at the base. And the president of the United States has decided that we're going to use these Stargates to explore space because who knows what's out there. Clearly,
and let's mess with other planets and other alien forms.
Clearly, this is not happening in the modern day because there's already too much going on here. But
once we get the Space Force out on them, maybe that's what they're doing.
Right. But then there are going to be 9 covert ops teams that will be using the Stargates, and they will all be named and numbered SG-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. And very creative, I know. But so SG-1 is going to comprise of O'Neill and Carter and their men, and Kowalski and Freddie and their men will be an SG-2, and Daniel has decided that he will also be on SG-1. He didn't really ask. He just said that was going to happen.
So do we have like an SG-3 TV show?
No.
Like, okay.
No. Okay. Obviously there are spin-offs, but no.
But it's not those type of spin-offs.
No.
Gotcha.
But then in the middle of this meeting, when they're trying to argue with Daniel about him joining SG-1, Ferretti wakes up. And so meeting is adjourned by Jack getting up and running out of the room.
Yes.
Yeah. But Ferretti, my note says, Ferretti, you stud. Because Ferretti remembered all 7 coordinates for the Stargate.
Yes.
And then I don't know what happened next, but my next note just says Kowalski cracks me up.
I don't know. I don't have anything about that.
Whatever.
Is this when they're explaining the gods?
Maybe.
because that was another scene where the explanation they went into made me feel much better about this show than the movie, because I was like, I understood everything you said and I follow and I can move forward with
Oh,
this.
that was before they ran to see Freddie. That was when they were at the table still, when
Oh,
Daniel
okay.
was trying to join the team. But yes,
Yeah.
whatever Kowalski says about going on this mission was funny. I don't know what it was, but it was funny. So moving on.
I also want to make a comment that when they're walking through the hallway at Stargate with the rounded hallway, it looks like the Star Wars area where Darth Vader is. Do you know what I'm speaking of?
Okay. Yes, I guess I know what you're speaking of.
Well, you gave me a face like
no, I was trying to picture the two side by side, and I was like, okay, they're both kind of round. I think that just kind of looks like spaceships to me.
Maybe so. I've seen both of them now once, so this is very baseline knowledge I have here.
And then we get to my first real problem with this show.
Okay.
And it's not
pretty good ways in before you have a problem.
Yeah, because it's just a problem that I have with a lot of sci-fi shows. And that is, they go through the Stargate to this planet. They don't know what it is. And then when they get there, they're like, oh man, it's so cold. You're lucky that cold is all it is. Because like there was no atmosphere check. There was no information. There was no like probe. You just walked through the Stargate to a literal different corner of the universe, as easy as driving to 7-Eleven. And
Yeah.
It just bothers me so much when people use interplanetary travel as if it is like driving down the street.
Right.
It is baffling to me. Yeah.
I can follow that, because I feel like it's different than whenever there's like travel through Doctor Who, because first of all, it's usually through time, but also he's familiar with what the other planets are.
Yes, but also in early Doctor Who, in the traditional like 1960s,
The
1970s
original?
seasons, they did have on the TARDIS, they would do an atmosphere check before they walked outside.
See, they have an idea.
And like in the new series, they don't show him doing that, but that screen that he's got on the thing that's telling him the details of the planet, it tells on the screen. And a lot of times when they show it, it tells you oxygen levels on the screen.
Right.
So in Doctor Who, when they travel to different planets, they might not make it a point of dialogue, but they acknowledge that they're checking the atmosphere of the planet they're going to.
Right.
They don't even know what this planet is.
Yes. They didn't even know this other planet existed until like 24 hours ago.
Yeah, they just followed some weird robotic snake men to a different planet without checking if they could breathe.
That may or may not be the correct one they were trying to go to.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're taking the word of a man who was in a coma.
Yes. And the coordinates are just random coordinates at this point.
So, just like for a show that knows so much about theoretical astrophysics, you would think that they'd like have atmosphere down.
Right. That feels like an easy one.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
But then back on this planet, the snake men, obviously Blondie did not get selected to be the Gold Queen. So next up is Shara. And I wrote, Shara is the next woman chosen to be looked over by the Gold Queen. Oh, and she's naked.
Yes. This is where Showtime comes in.
Correct.
Yes.
And then she was chosen to be possessed by the Goa'uld. And that scene is very graphic.
I just put, I really hate this goopy monster thing. It makes me very uncomfortable. And then I said, I do not understand what just happened. Did it go through her back? Because it came out of the other woman's stomach. So why did it not go through her stomach?
No, I don't know that it did go through her back.
But it didn't go through her stomach. That's the one thing I know, because they flipped her over onto her stomach.
No, so they flipped her over. Well, they flipped her onto her side.
Yeah.
So she wasn't laying flat on her back, but she also wasn't on her stomach. I don't know. I don't know where it went in, but I don't. The Goa'uld do live in their stomach.
Right. Right. I followed that.
Yeah. But then we have the SG teams, and SG2 is guarding the gate, and SG1 is going to explore the planet. And Daniel just walks right up to a group of strangers and starts talking to them because, of course, the fuck he does.
Right. That is what he is best at. And this is where I put he just makes a much better Daniel Jackson.
Yeah.
Because it was so much more believable in this scene than it was in the scene in the movie.
Yeah. But the strangers take them to town. And they're at this feast, and they think that the strangers are treating them like gods because they came to the Stargate, but they're not. They're just bringing them there to be given to Apophis.
But I also like how Colonel Jack needs like zero information on what's happening. He's like, do you know what we're doing? And he goes to explain. He's like, great, okay, let's go. He's like, I don't need any information. I just need you to tell me that we're doing the right thing and we can move forward.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not gonna understand it anyway. So like,
exactly.
And then Share is the new Gold Queen. She comes in, and we see that she does not have any idea who Daniel is.
Yes. I put poor Daniel, but also impulse control, my guy.
Correct. Because his lack of impulse control gets them beaten up and sent into some weird, like, thing in the ground full of other people. Mm-hmm. And Teal'c knows that they're from Earth because Daniel is wearing a watch, or because Jack is wearing a watch. And he is like, what is this?
Yeah.
Then we just take a quick peek back to SG2, where we find out that Kowalski doesn't care what he told Jack. He will not be returning into the gate until Jack comes back.
I cannot say I'm surprised.
No.
That is how every scene that's like this in every movie goes.
Correct. It's a little cliche.
Yes.
But like with Kowalski, it's believable that like that's
it is.
exactly,
it is.
Yeah.
Because he has that loyalty with Freddy too and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So it's definitely very believable.
Then Skara and Jack and Daniel and Sam are in this little cave pit, and they're having the realization that Apophis is the serpent god, and he is not Ra, and that we have a different big bad on our hands, but of the same race.
At this point in the episode, I put that this episode / movie feels very similar to the Egyptian episode of Kolchak.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
It had a lot of the same like stylistic choices because the lighting was different when they were in this area, and it just, I mean, it obviously had similar like themes and stuff too. With
yeah.
Thing, but I was like, it kind of feels very similar. Not like they were like even derivative of each other, but it just felt similar watching them. Yeah.
And then Apophis and Shara come in, and there's this weird thing, and they're going to choose who will be the children of the gods. There's all kinds of
Here's
drama.
our title.
Yes.
That's what I put.
And everyone has to kneel. And so Teal'c and Jack like have a moment, and they kind of like look at each other, and Jack doesn't get forced to kneel. He kneels because he like makes eye contact with Teal'c, and it's like, okay. And then Daniel and his fucking lack of impulse control or any brain power when it comes to a woman is like, has figured out that the hosts lose their memory and like wants to get chosen so that he can't remember this pain of his wife not remembering him or whatever.
So I like Teal'c. I've decided I like him. What is the symbol on his head? Is that for the Jaffa? Okay. And so
if you notice all of the people that what's it called, that Daniel had walked up to in the forest that were talking to him, they also had it, but it wasn't emblazoned in gold, it was just in black.
Are they still Jaffa though?
Yes.
Okay.
You will learn so much more about Teal'c and his people and his history. Like I said, he's the character that is in the most of the entire show.
So the people we know so far, just to keep things straight, because I'm going to assume other people also not watch the show like me. We have the Abydos people, the Jaffa, and the Goa'uld.
Yes, those are the three
As
races that we
people
have
we've
so
learned
far.
so far. Got it.
We
Okay.
might have to like make a spreadsheet of races.
We will.
So then they choose Skara and everyone's freaking out. And then they're like, all right, kill everybody else. And everybody starts dying. And then Jack starts fighting back and he says, help me. You can help us. And Teal'c says, you're not the first person to say that, but you're the first person that I believe can do it. And hands him a weapon and they fight their way out together.
Yeah, they do.
Yes. So then Teal'c helps him escape and he's like, all right, let's go. And Teal'c's like, I don't have a home. Like, this is my home. I have nowhere to go. And Jack says, well, then for now you can crash on my place.
I know. That was so sweet.
Then we learn a little bit more about Teal'c's race. He is of the Jaffa people, which are a carrier species for the Goa'uld. And in return for carrying the infant Goa'uld, they get basically immortality.
I should put, man, I really hate these worms.
Correct.
I'm telling her that like 4 more times in my notes, probably.
And then Teal'c tells Jack like to forget about trying to save the kid because the kid is not in there anymore. And Jack refuses to believe that Skara can't be saved, that they are going to do something about it. And then
But there's no way we can lose him this fast. Like, he's such a big part already. Like,
and then Kowalski saves the day and blows up the spaceship. Because of course he does.
mm-hmm.
And the Goa'uld, but unfortunately the Goa'uld royal family does make it out of the gate.
Yes. So this is another question, a logical question, like logistics question.
Yeah.
When they're going through the gate and it closes before they get in, you can hear them pounding. Are they stuck in that stream now, or do they get sent back to where they were before the gate closed?
They are stuck.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So then, but no one saw the symbols, so they don't know
Mhm.
where the family went.
Right.
And then at all of this time, we keep getting flash is over to the military base where time is up. And their General Hammond is trying to decide whether to lock the gate or not. And my next note just says, faster, Daniel. Because Daniel is trying to put the coordinates in slow as molasses.
Oh, I know.
No
sense of urgency.
But in the end, everyone makes it through the gate. And Sam goes through the gate first and she's like, don't shoot, they're refugees.
Yeah.
And they bring everybody in. And I missed something.
Okay.
Because once they're through the gate, you see Kowalski kind of fall on the floor and he's like wiping his eyes. I don't remember something happening to him. Like,
he's
I
an
missed.
alien
No. I know he's
the guy went through his ear.
Okay, I missed where it went through his ear. That's the thing, is because I was like, I knew that, because I know the show, I knew that Kowalski became taken over by the Goa'uld.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the very last shot of the episode is his eyes flashing like apophysis.
Right.
So I knew, but my note just says I missed the thing that happens. Like I knew something happened to him. I knew what the thing that was. I missed the
happening itself.
Yes, while I was taking a note, looking down, I missed the actual moment that happened.
Yeah. It like jumped out of someone's stomach into his ear.
Cute.
It wasn't. It wasn't at all.
But then we have a shot of the SG-1 team in front of the Stargate. It's just them talking, but it's the 4 of them. It's Sam, Teal'c, Jack, and Daniel. And I was like, ooh, I love this show so much. And I'm going to love it so much more when it's not an hour and 40 minutes at a time.
I will also like that.
Because here's the thing. It was good, and a lot happens, and a lot of it's important. But man, I kept pausing it, and I was like, how is there still this much time left? Because it was so much exposition that it was just like,
it was, But I think coming from the fact that I haven't seen the rest of it, I've only seen the movie and the show.
Right.
It felt like it was necessary because of how little they explained in the movie. They had to tell us stuff now, and it
Yeah,
still was so much less exposition than the movie had, even though the
that's
movie
very
didn't
true.
tell us anything. And so it felt like it moved faster in my mind. And also like one of the things I put like my general thoughts about this episode,
Mhm.
and like the casting was so much better, so it was so much easier to keep up with. It was easier to understand when they had the exposition. It felt like I followed
Yeah.
based on how things were explained. And I feel like this is the type of show, like I haven't watched a lot of sci-fi, obviously. I've watched Doctor Who, but only the newer stuff, not like I started with the Ninth Doctor. And but I was like, I feel like this is one of those shows that I'm gonna be able to get into. Like I got into Doctor Who
Yeah.
based on how they've set it up. And
Yeah.
I did not feel that way after the movie.
Which is totally
So,
fair.
yeah.
Some trivia about the episode. When they first land in Abydos, they look at the controls for the Stargate, and Sam Carter is very excited about the controls. And she's like, oh man, like this is how they control it. It took us 15 years and 3 supercomputers to MacGyver a system for the gate on Earth.
Oh.
Now, there's one account that says that Amanda Tapping actually ad-libbed that line in her audition, and it was one of the reasons why she got it, the part.
Oh, that's so cute.
There's a trivia about the way that the accent that the Abydonians have is not necessarily consistent, but there's no L's. If you listen to the way they say like Daniel and Captain O'Neill, there's no L's because in Egyptian hieroglyphs, there is no letter L.
Interesting. I didn't catch that, but that is not a thing I would have called probably.
Early in the story, there is an exterior establishing shot of a guarded road leading to a tunnel entrance for the NORAD station at Cheyenne Mountain Complex. That is a real footage of the actual main entrance to the Undermountain installation, and it is consistently where the base is for the whole series.
Okay.
Vatiar Bandera, who plays Share, agreed to be fully nude on set, but did not know that they were filming more than her waist up until she had to sign a waiver that full nudity was in the episode. And she eventually agreed, but only after they shortened the amount of time that she was actually fully naked on scene.
Pure Hollywood, guys.
Also, the producers, who are writers of the show, did not care for that. Showtime added the naked because they thought it would draw more viewers. But most television broadcasters who play this in syndication completely remove that scene.
I believe it because it does not.
And
There.
only online streaming services show the unedited original. So Netflix is the only place where you will see that. Even the DVD, I believe, cuts that part out.
Well, it makes sense because it's very unnecessary.
It is. It's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
I had in the part where the tissue box is sent through the wormhole, the sergeant says it will take 5 seconds, but when Jack and the team go through, it takes a total of 17 seconds of screen time for them to have transferred from one to the other.
Oh, good catch, person that found that.
Oh, and then here's the most important trivia because it is important for what will happen. Oh, wait, hold on.
Is it a spoiler?
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay. One, the prisoners in Apophysis holding cell, all of those people that were in there are a bunch of different races, and it's an Easter egg because all of those races will be in the show.
Oh, how fun.
But no, the thing that's super important in the pilot and the movie, whenever they land on a planet, we have these scenes of Daniel trying to talk to them and not being able to, and there's that awkward communication thing. But then by the end of this episode, everyone is speaking English. Never again for the entirety of the show will the alien races not speak English. But unlike Star Trek and Doctor Who, that have, like, Star Trek has a universal translator and the Doctor Who talks about the TARDIS translating for you, there is zero explanation ever as to why suddenly everyone speaks English. So
Excellent.
that is
because it was easier to do that way. Mm-hmm.
Their linguists gave up.
Yep. Two down and they were done.
Yeah. So there is the first episode of Stargate SG-1. And Courtney, who would you like to punch?
I would like to punch the alien worms. All
Just
of them.
all of gold.
All of them. Every one of them. Who would you like to punch?
Probably Apophis.
I mean, yes.
Kind of an easy one.
Yeah. But we're in the beginning. So it's okay.
Yeah. How about
He
your
was
MVP?
gonna be who I was gonna pick. And then those worms really got to me.
How about your MVP?
Tilk.
Okay. All right.
I thought it was gonna be Sam for a while because
Sam is mine. Sam is mine. But I will say I love how much you love Teal'c because Teal'c is my favorite character of the whole show.
Like when I first saw him, I was like, he's gonna be a good guy. And then the second time we saw him when we first got into this the new world, I was like, he's definitely a good guy. And then by the end, I was just like,
yeah, no, Teal'c is my favorite character of the whole show. Not of the whole universe, because like I said, I'm partial to the Stargate Atlantis characters, but I love Teal'c. He is my favorite. So I love that you love Teal'c because I didn't tell her anything about anything I thought about the show.
I know nothing. I went in blind. I watched the movie and I still went in blind because that didn't tell me anything.
True. Do you have any predictions for the next episode?
They're kind of basic predictions because I don't know enough yet.
Yeah.
I assume they will go into some new world next episode because they're now on the hunt for Shayra and Skara. So I assume that they are going to be trying to jump through different worlds to find where they have gone to. I don't think that they're going to find them next episode because that feels like a plot point.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I really have because
all right,
not a lot happening.
Yeah.
And you actually know what happens in this show.
Right. So I will not be participating in the predictions part of the Sci-Fi Sundays because if I don't remember exactly what happens in the next episode, it's not to say that I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't remember which details happen when.
Right.
Like I said, I fully knew before I even started this episode that Kowalski becomes gold.
Mm-hmm.
I just literally was so mad that I missed the one moment where it actually happened.
Don't be. It was not a pleasant moment. I'm going to make a bold statement that gold are the worst alien on this whole system.
Well, I will say they're not great by any means.
They are very uncomforting. What is discomforting?
Discomforting, yeah.
Discomforting.
What a time to be alive.
1997. What a year.
I was 5.
I was 4. Good times.
Good times. Well, with that, how old were you in 1987? God, some of you, Monica wasn't even born.
Oh, you're right. She wasn't. Poor Mon.
Gross. But if you have thoughts, theories, are you Team Teal'c or not? What are your feelings?
If you have thoughts that are spoilers, you can send them. Please put spoilers at the top, and I will make sure that MK is the one who handles them and not me.
Yes. Yeah, but if you have feelings about the gold, please share them. We would love to
You
hear
can share
that.
all of those with me because I feel them all. Whatever you have to say that is negative about them, I also feel that.
And you can send all of that to any of the social medias or our email, which is Death and Aliens. And you can send me anything at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will see you on Thursday for our first Thriller Thursday, where we start watching
The Bates Motel.
Mm.
Spicy.
Bye.